Hi everyone, welcome to Module 56. So today we're going to be talking about multiplying and dividing rational expressions. So we have four major steps. The first is to factor the numerator and denominator, right? So the same thing we've been doing, factor things. We're going to multiply the numerators together, right? Just like in regular multiplication, right? If we had 2 over 3 times 4 over 6, we do 2 times 4, and that would give us 8 over 3 times 6, which would give us 18. Right? From there, we're going to simplify. So we're going to multiply the numerators together, and then we're going to multiply the denominators together. And as we multiply the denominators, like 3 times 6, right, the last thing that we're going to do is cross out anything that's common, right? So cross out things that are the same on top and on bottom, right? So as we look at this problem here, I can see that there's nothing in the first fraction that is going to simplify. So I'm just going to write that fraction again, right? And then I'm going to look at my numerator on the top here. I can see that that is the difference of squares. So I'm going to factor it into two pieces, right? I know that one is going to be positive, one is going to be negative. I have x, and this 4 will split into 2 and 2, right? This 4 on the denominator will stay there, right? As we know, we can multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. That's essentially saying we're multiplying all these things together and all those things together. So we would have 2 times x plus 2 times x minus 2 over, I'm going to put this 4 in front, 4 times x minus 2. That last step is to cross out or to cancel things, right? So we're going to cancel anything that looks similar. So that would be here like x squared or x minus 2 and x minus 2. Those are similar, exactly the same. We're going to cancel them, right? So my answer, we have 2 over 4, which we can simplify to 1 over 2, right? Just like simplifying a fraction. So I would say 1 times x plus 2 over 2, right? I don't actually need this 1, so I could just say x plus 2 over 2. And that's going to be my answer. We want to remind ourselves that we don't just have that. We also want to include our excluded values. So I'm going to go back to my original equation, looking right here at my denominators. The things that would make that 0, like this one, x minus 2, the thing that would make that 0 is a positive number 2. So x is not allowed to be 2. The 4 doesn't have a variable, so we don't have to worry about it. So this would be our final answer. Go ahead and look down at the bottom, right, and you'll see 2 more practice problems. At this point, if you're feeling confident, you can pause the video and work on them yourself. Otherwise, I'm going to keep talking. So if you have here, I'm going to do the top part first. X plus 3, that's not going to factor. But in the second equation, I see the difference of squares again. So I have x plus 2, x minus 2, right? I'm going to multiply all these things together. So my top of my equation here, I'll do in a different color just to separate it, right? So that guy there, I'm going to use my x. I have negative 6 on top and negative 1 on bottom. I'm going to look at that. I'm going to say multiplying to get negative 6. That's probably 3 and 2. I need a negative 1, so I'm going to put negative 3 in front here. So I have x minus 3, x plus 2. Right? On the bottom, switch one more time in our colors. On the bottom here, I have 9 on top and 6 on bottom. Multiplying to get 9, adding to get 6 would be 3 and 3. So I have x plus 3 times x plus 3. Notice all of these things are on the same line. I have my numerators with numerators, right? So that's my top part here. Denominators with denominators. If something is the same on the top and the bottom, I can cancel it. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel my x plus 3 and my x plus 3, my x plus 2 and my x plus 2, right? And I don't have any remaining matching factors. So in my answer, I'm going to have x minus 3, sorry about that, let's see, x minus 3, if I can write, x minus 3, there we go, over x minus 2 times x plus 3, just like that. Right, I don't have anything left that's common, so that's going to be my answer. I want to make my warning, so I'm going to have x cannot equal, and x cannot equal anything in the denominator, right? Anything that's going to make that equal to 0. So my first one, that would be negative 2, right? Because negative 2 plus 2 would be 0. So I'm going to have here, I'm going to have negative 2 for my first one. The second one that would make it 0 would be 2. The third one, what would make it 0 is negative 3. And the fourth one, what would make it 0 is negative 3 as well. We don't need to write it twice, right? So I'm just going to write it one more time. And then I have my final answer. All right, so when we look at letter B, it looks a little bit different, but not entirely. We can see that we have a fraction here, right? Fraction here and a non-fraction here. Just like with whole numbers, we can make this a fraction by putting it over 1, right? So we're going to have our numerator multiplied times our numerator and our denominator multiplied times our denominator, right? So I'm going to factor the first one. So as I'm factoring that, you see that it is the difference of squares, right? So x squared is x and x, negative 81, positive 9, negative 9. Right? Within my second parentheses on the numerator, I can see that I have an x in both cases here. So I'm going to factor out that x, and I'm going to see x times what gives me x squared, that would be x, and x times what gives me negative 9x, that would be negative 9. Right? On the bottom, I can see that it is a trinomial, so I need to use my x. And I have 81 on bottom, negative 18. I'm sorry, 81 on top, negative 18 on bottom. So multiplying to get 81, adding to get negative 18, it's going to give me negative 9 and negative 9. So I have x minus 9, and I have that 1 down here. Right? I know that I can cancel anything that's exactly the same on the top or the bottom. So I'm going to cancel this 9, or x minus 9, with that x minus 9. I can cancel this x minus 9 with this x minus 9, right? And I can see that I have nothing left over. So I'm going to have my x plus 9, that's this one right here, also multiplied times an x. Anything by itself, I'm going to put it right up in front. And then it's over 1. So I could put it over 1, or I can just leave it just how it is. So I know that that's going to be my answer. I want to include my warning. So I have x is not equal to whatever this is, negative, whatever makes this 0, which would be positive 9. Whatever makes this 0, which is positive 9, already written. And then this 1 is never going to be 0. So it's just 9 that it cannot be. All right? So that is multiplying. Just multiply straight across after you factor. Alright, so division is almost exactly the same, but we have to remember our copy dot flip, right? So remember that when we're dealing with dividing fractions, let's say we have something that looks like this over 1/3, right? We're going to copy the first fraction, we're going to change it to multiplication, we're going to flip the second fraction before we multiply. So 3 times 3 is 9 over 2 times 1 is 2. That would be the answer to our problem. In this case, we're going to factor everything first, right? Remember, factor things. We're going to rewrite the problem as multiplication, right? So that's going to be exactly what we see here. Right down here, this exact step, the copy dot flip, right? So go ahead and make yourself a note, copy dot flip, okay? From there, we're going to multiply the numerators together, multiply the denominators together, right? And then from there, we're going to have our last step, which is cancel stuff, right? We've dealt with that before. So I actually don't like this problem that we have right in here, so if you could go ahead and cross out that problem and write the problem that we have here. Feel free to take a pause in the video if you need to write it down. So first things first, I'm going to factor everything. So if I'm thinking about this first fraction, I see on top that I have the difference of squares. That's x plus 4, x minus 4, right? The bottom makes no changes, right? I just have x minus 2. There's nothing to factor out because they don't have anything in common. I'm going to still write my division sign. On the top here, I'm going to use my 12 on top, 7 on bottom, multiply to get 12, add to get 7. That's 3 and 4. So I have x plus 3, x plus 4. Right? Then finally here, I have 4 on top, negative 4 on bottom, multiply to get 4, add to get negative 4, negative 2 and negative 2. So I'm going to have x minus 2 times x minus 2. So that was my first step, the factoring step. The second step is going to be my copy dot flip step. So I'm going to copy my first fraction, x plus 4 times x minus 4 over x minus 2. I'm going to change the division sign into a multiplication sign. So I'm going to put that dot there. So we have copy, dot, and now we're going to do our flip section. So here, we're going to switch the top and the bottom here. So I'm going to have x minus 2 times x minus 2, and I'm going to have x plus 3 and x plus 4. Right? That is my rewriting the problem, the copy dot flip. Now we're going to multiply the two together, the top and the bottom together. Right? So I'm going to have one big numerator, one big denominator. Then I'm going to cancel out the things that are common. So x minus 2 can be canceled with x minus 2. X plus 4 can be canceled. That leaves me with just what doesn't have any pairs. So that means that I'm going to have x minus 4 on the top and x minus 2 on the top over x plus 3 on the bottom. Right? So that is going to be my answer. I want to make my warnings. So x cannot equal from here 2, from here negative 3, from here negative 4. That's going to be my answer for division. So we see the same steps. We're going to factor things and cancel stuff. The only change is that we are going to do our copy dot flip stage in the middle.